It's gonna be recorded on Zoom, so we have it. Look up, George, we're live.
Oh, hello.
All right, guys, we're right on time. Thanks for being here. A happy Thursday. I'm here with George Vasquez, who, is a pretty incredible journey, in my opinion, because you came to me in a bit of a struggle and you had this big dream. And I feel like we accomplished so much more than we even set out to do. But first of all, introduce yourself. Who are you? Tell us about your business, your work, and of course, your beautiful family.
Thank you. So I'm George Vasquez. I'm 49 years old. I've got a beautiful wife and three kids, a 16-year-old boy, Sebastian, a 13-year-old girl, Mia, and a 10-year-old boy, Adrian. And in addition to trying to do all my dad stuff, I run a company, a family business with my brother. We're in the produce distribution, so we do everything that's fresh produce, basically.
Yeah, cool. That's awesome. Okay, cool. So I just realized that you just mentioned to me a minute ago before we went live that we actually didn't start with just running. You actually met me at one of the Integrity Multisport race clinics, right? So that was back in September, I believe.
Yeah, I did the September Key Biscayne Try, which in itself was a crazy thing because I'd never done anything like that before in my life.
Mhm.
And from working out at Lifetime, I had met some folks who just had continuously seen me there for over a year, and they kind of started talking to me about, hey, that they were going to do this try and that I should do it. And I was like, that's crazy. I've never done anything like that before in my life. I don't have the fitness for that. That's just crazy. And they were like, yeah, of course you can. They were trying to convince me. And I thought at least it was a good, I was intrigued by the training aspect of it. And I've always worked well with goals. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to do this, but I'm going to train with them. And I started doing the training, and a couple months later, I did the try, and I had no, like, by that point, the group had like fallen apart. So I was really training on my own, like I was following stuff that I had found online, and I was just trying to do the best I could, but it was not great. So I was very nervous, and there was the pre-race clinic, and that's where I met you the first time, and you were hosting it. And I thought, wow, this is great, and she obviously has the experience and knows what she's talking about. And you gave me you gave some tips there that I actually tried to implement. So that was the first, the next day or that weekend, I ran that first try, and it was a huge sense of accomplishment, right? Because I had never thought that I could actually do it, and then I convinced myself to do it. Obviously, it was brutally difficult for me, but I finished it, and I was so excited that I had been able to do it that all I wanted to do was get better and achieve my next challenge, right? But honestly, all the parts were difficult for me, but the swimming, I was very intimidated by open water swimming. So the fact that the fall was coming up, and I'm a native Miami, so I get very cold. I don't like the cold water. So I decided that I wasn't going to do another try till the following spring or summer. But I really wanted to figure out, okay, what can I do to improve my fitness and get ready? And I thought to myself, well, you know what? The part other than swimming, the part that because at least I like swimming, it was the open water thing. But running, I hated running. I had horrible, like I could barely run for more than a few minutes without stopping, and I would get horrible shin splints. So I was up to running, 4 miles a couple of times a week, but then the shin splints that I would get were, I can't even explain. I mean, it was terrible on both legs. So I just thought that that was just
Side effect.
my fate in life on running. I had no idea that there was a form or anything else that you needed. And lo and behold, I had started following you from like a week or two before that we had met. And then all of a sudden you started, publishing and talking about a running essentials program. And I was like, wow, what perfect timing. Everything that you were saying, I felt like it was talking directly to me. It was someone who was in, trying to level up their fitness, who really wanted to improve their running skills. And I thought, this is right up my alley. And so I called you, and we started in October.
Yeah. Yeah, and so it was cool because I obviously didn't remember you, individually at the group clinic just because I have a lot of people there and, whatever. But I was excited because you said, you were in pain and I knew that I could help you get better because so many runners think that pain is just part of it, right? You're supposed to hurt when you run or even bike or swim. There's supposed to be some kind of pain involved. And don't get me wrong, there are setbacks that happen, but in general, if you're running 3 to 4 miles, you shouldn't be having shin splints. It's a technique issue. So when you mentioned that, I was like, okay, this is going to be so great for him. And then you said you wanted to, so other people were training for the Miami 13.1, but that didn't align with your schedule. So we pushed it back to April. And that was your big dream. And you had the goal of doing a sub 3 hour 13.1. And you've never run that far before in your whole life, right?
I had never run that, but I remember, and actually when I reached out to him, we started talking about running essentials. I remember that I didn't even think about a marathon because it wasn't something that was even in my brain, But I remember that first time that we met on the track and everything, you said, you've got to come up with some goals, some big goals. And I remember going home and on the drive home, I was thinking, okay, what's a crazy big goal? And I said, oh, a half marathon, because I can't even, I struggle with a 5K with
Right.
the pain I've got. So can you imagine doing a half marathon? I could, I don't think I can do that, but it's a big goal to shoot for. And honestly, when I told you that that was the goal, I never really thought that I would be able to do it.
Really?
Yeah, I really didn't, because the pain was, the
Right.
pain was so big.
Okay. Yeah, so that is huge. Thank you for the reminder because if when I work with people, if we don't set that big goal, they will usually kind of fall by the wayside because you have to have that motivation for when you're tired, when you're sore, when you don't want to get out of bed and drive all the way to the track, you still have to have that motivation that you committed to, right? And that dream is your anchor, right? It's your North Star for that period of time. And so, yeah, I was like, no problem. I got you. Like there was not a doubt in my mind that we would get you there. So I'm happy that, we did accomplish the goal and we're going to get there to the story, but I had no idea that you doubted yourself that much. So let's talk about like our first session. We did our video analysis at the track together, and then we ran through all of the strength essentials for running, specific to running. And that's where you told me a little bit more about your story, and we actually have a reel about it, which was great, where you had actually been on a really long fitness journey. So why don't we touch on that a little bit, just because before we met, you've already had some major success in your health, right?
Right. Yeah. So, rewind about at this point, it's been about a little over 2 years. I was actually pushing almost 300 pounds. I had gained a significant amount of weight over the last probably 10 to 15 years. Really started when my oldest was born. Just the struggles and the stress of trying to balance building a business, family life and so forth, just really started losing my focus on my health, which I had previously always been someone who was healthy and so forth, but I really lost my way over those 10 or 15 years, and it starts very gradually, right? I was telling someone the other day, it's not like you gain 80 pounds overnight, right? So it was a very gradual thing, and it was like, oh, okay, so okay, I gained 5 pounds this year. What's 5 pounds? And then it's 10 pounds, and then before you know it, 4 years have gone by, and I wasn't working out anymore. I wasn't doing anything. I was super sedentary. My work is pretty much I'm sitting in front of a computer for 10 to 12 hours a day. And then I would go home and it was just, with the kids and the weekends with their activities and stuff. So really had no time for, I was going to say I had no time. I've learned to make time.
Yes.
I wasn't prioritizing my health and what I needed to do so I could give back to my family. And then my health really started to deteriorate. COVID obviously was a very difficult period for a lot of people. I gained more weight during that time, and I got to the point where, like I said, I was almost 300 pounds. I was on 10 different medications for blood pressure, cholesterol, triglycerides, I mean, you name it, and like, I remember my triglycerides were so high that they had me on 3 different meds for trying just to control my level, right?
That's strong.
And
That's strong.
I remember my doctor said to me, hey, you know, at the time I was 46 or 45, 46, and he said, you know, George out, but he's been my doctor for a long time. We have a really good relationship. So he said, George, I just need to tell you for my because I want to get it off my chest that if you don't make a drastic change in your life, you know, you're just a heartbeat away from having a massive stroke and just being, he goes, and to be honest, and hopefully this scares you, the best thing would be that you would have a massive stroke and it would be, you know, finite, because a lot of people have these strokes and then they're paralyzed or, you know, incapacitated for the rest of their life, which
Yeah.
quite frankly is even worse. So I was like, oh my God, you know, but I can't, you know, it's hard for me to explain how difficult and how big of a mountain that seemed. But then I ran into a friend, Brian Plow, who owns Gentera Precision Medicine, and they really focus on a lot of these peptides and IV therapies and stuff. And I met him, and I had seen him, and I was just catching him up, and he told me, "Wow, you look really tired and really down." And I said, "Yeah." And I just told him, I said, you know, I don't feel myself. I'm trying. I told him what happened at the doctor and that I was trying, but you know, I would go try to even walk around the block of my house, and Aaron, I couldn't even finish the block. I was just, I was totally drained. And he said, please come by and we'll help, you know, let one of the doctors see you and we'll talk. So I went to see them, did some blood work, and they did get me on a semi-glutide, which is Ozempic and trizepatide program, and that's how I started. But they were very, you know, they were very serious, and when they said that they wouldn't give me the protocol if I wasn't committed to working out, because so much you lose so much muscle on those medicines. So
And bone. Yeah.
and bone. So they, you know, there was other peptides that they included, you know, NADs, BPC, you know, all kinds of things that really all of a sudden, as I started so I'm sorry, so they made me commit to working out and being there every week to check in with the doctor.
Yeah.
And I did it, and I said to myself, well, if I have the energy and I can do it, I'll make it happen. And I remember I started working out and walking around, and it was very slow. But all of a sudden, the weight started coming off, and my energy level started getting better. I started making better choices about food and so forth. And it, you know, for me, it was just a great kick in the rear to get me started. And you know, I was very grateful for that. And for the next year and a half, I lost 70 or 80 pounds. So all the time, then I joined the gym and I started going to Lifetime and, you know, going to the gym several times a week and so forth. I hired
we're doing heavy weights, right? To combat the muscle loss, correct?
Yeah, I hired a personal trainer, and he was fantastic. Really, you know, I hadn't done any weight training in probably 18 years at that point. And I started, and I remember the first day, he's like, all right, let's do some push-ups. I did 2 and I wanted to die. So, you know, it was a journey by the time I met you, and I felt great, you know, I felt great that I had been able to lose that weight. But at the same time, now that I felt healthy, I wanted to take it to the next level. I wanted to really feel 100% healthy, and that I had the stamina, the endurance, and really the ability to do other challenges. Because I realized by that point, I said, you know, life is going by very quickly, and you know, the most important thing for me is my family. But if I don't take care of myself, I can't really take care of them or anybody else. And I remember that when I met you, the biggest goal was, yeah, that I had lost that weight, but really that I think that even by the time I met you, my doctor had already taken me off those 10 meds. So I wasn't on any, on any medication other than he left me on one cholesterol. But other than that, I remember that everything else was gone, and it was such, such an accomplishment. So I said, if I can do that, let's go. I can do something else. So that's how we got to running essentials.
Yeah. Okay, so we were at the track together. We were videotaping you as I do with all my athletes from the front, the side, and the back. And I just noticed that you were heel striking so badly. And what shoes did you have on again?
I was wearing Hoka's.
Hoka, my favorite brand, not. Okay, so so typically if you're in a Hoka, you're a heel striker. And heel striking gets, touted as not a big deal. But if you really look at the biodynamics of our bodies, and if you were running without those shoes on and you were running barefoot, you would never run like that. So those big cushions, all they cause is instability, shin splints, and knee problems. Now, don't get me wrong, when you switch to a lower drop shoe or a zero drop, you do have other issues to contend with, but in my opinion, they're way less and easier to overcome, right? Your calves, your Achilles, and your feet. Your feet are that's the foundation. And so from day one, I had you doing your toe yoga, right? I had you massaging your feet and strengthening your lower leg so that when we made the transition, and you were willing to do it right away. Some people, it takes years, to get them to change. It's at your own comfort level, but you switched right away. I remember you came to the track and Richie was your model. He's doing 13.1 in zero shoes, the brand zero shoe, which is a zero drop shoe with a very minimal cushion. And you can't just switch, right? It's not a good idea to just switch. You kind of have to go back and forth while you're strengthening. So strength, strength, strength. You cannot get too strong with your feet at all, ever, if you're going to be running, right? So just walking around in them can make your feet stronger, but then you started to run in them, right? And for the most part, we had success, but there were definitely some setbacks on that journey, right? It was the top of your foot that was actually hurting, but what about the shin splints? What happened to those?
It was interesting because, yeah, nothing happens overnight, right? But I will say that the shin splints did go away overnight.
Overnight.
I mean, it was. I remember that first day on the track. That we, I felt some. I felt not the same level because after I ran the first time, you gave me some tips on just some what I thought at the time was just some minor things. I really didn't think it was going to be so impactful. And but then we ran a lot more than what I was expecting, and I was fine. The next time we met, I think it was at the track again when we did the run, and I remember when I was done, I said, "Oh, I didn't even realize it until I got in the car." And I think I texted you and everything. I said, "Aaron, I don't have any shin splints." I mean, it was crazy, and that was I still didn't know what the heck I was doing. I was still, out of shape or whatever, but the shin splints did happen overnight. Those went away overnight, and like you said, yeah, there's other things, and obviously, towards the end, I was really training a lot, and putting my body through a lot. So I had some other setbacks, but I think they were just I think what we've discovered is that they
Overtraining.
were overuse issues. But the big issue that was really preventing me from running was the shin splints, and that was gone week one. So it
Yeah.
was incredible.
Yeah, so that's technique, right? So when we have the center of our body, the center of gravity of our body over our foot, every time we land, there's no need to put the brakes on, lift the toes, which causes the shin to fire. So this is what caused the shin splits. So when you learn to land with your foot flat and your shin right over your foot, it completely eliminates it on day one, right? So that's why I just taught you one simple drill to fix that. And then it was about building strength. And I will never forget when you came to track and, first we were doing walk runs and it
Right.
was a process. You were not running the full lap of the track. You were not doing any running straight for a couple weeks, right? And then we got
Right.
through the holidays and then you were doing longer track workouts, like 800, right? And you were so excited. I was like so proud of you because you just never thought that you would be like a runner, a real runner, right? Keeping up with the
Right.
group. actually you were inspiring other people that were slower than you, right, in the group, and doing those repeats and learning how to use your watch, right? Because it's all, there's a lot of technology involved, but it's all a progression, it's all a stair step. But unfortunately, it's not a straight line, right? So having setbacks like a tight tendon in the top of your foot, where we had to switch to elliptical for a couple of weeks, we don't lose fitness, we just modify it, right? And this is also where reducing your inflammation really, really helped. And that is when you decided to join my nutrition program, right? So I remember when you joined me that you were still doing the GLP-1 or the Ozempic, once a month, right? And for me, when I work with my athletes and my nutrition people, I really want them to be aware of the side effects of the medications that you're taking, because they're not really mentioned. Of course, they're mentioned on TV, but do you really listen to what they say, right? And that long-term side effect of that drug, even once a month, to me, is you don't need it anymore, right? So I'm not a doctor, right? But I just know what's possible if you know how to fuel your body the way it needs to be individually, right? And it's not hard. It's not hard. But unfortunately, what we're taught in school, what we're taught by society about nutrition is completely off most of the time. And, in my program, I was so happy when you decided to join my program. And then I don't think it was the first month, but I think the next month you said, okay, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do no more meds. And I was like, oh my gosh. And so that's the biggest thing for the nutrition. So why did you ultimately decide to do the nutrition, even though you had already had this success on your own and with your other doctors? What was your decision?
So I think first and foremost, it really came down to, by that point, um, I felt so comfortable with you, and I trusted you so much. And I felt that, I was doing it as a maintenance dose, and psychologically, I feel that I was just using it as a crutch.
Right.
And deep down, I knew I could probably do without it, but
It was scary.
I felt like I had done so much that the last thing I wanted to risk was going backwards, and that's the truth. I was paranoid of that. But you and I spoke about it several times, and you kept telling me, George, this works, this program works, you can do it, you don't need that. And by that point, I had my lifestyle had changed so much already by that point. I mean, the choices we were making at home in terms of, even what we used to clean around the house, and the important, all these things that we were doing. I knew that the least amount of medications that I could take, the better it would be for my body. So when you finally said, hey, the nutrition program starting up, we weren't done with the running essentials program, but I really wanted to do that with you, because I also felt that I continued to eat like if I was on that diet. And with all the workouts that we were doing, I was noticing that I was tired.
And
I
hungry. You
wasn't,
told me how hungry
yeah,
you were. Yeah.
yeah, I wasn't, I was hungry, and I was, out of gas. And I remember that you kept telling me, no, you have to eat more protein. And I was like, oh, more calories, it was just like a
Scary.
push
Yeah.
pull in the head, and psychologically. And I knew that I didn't want to eat like on a diet. I wanted to really find my lifestyle change, and what was the right thing to eat, because, it's very confusing when you've got all these things going, and you're not an expert, and you don't really know. And you go to you think you know what you're doing. You go to the grocery store and you buy something that says, low fat, and you think you're doing good, or you're buying yogurt and you think it's good, and there's so much more to that, right? And I think that that's the part that most people don't realize, is that there's so much marketing and so much pressure on us from social media and advertising, that the message gets hidden of really what you're consuming. So I was very interested in that aspect, and that's why I decided to. And again, by that point, I just trusted you so much, and I knew that if you were telling me that this was a good program for me, I knew that it would be.
Awesome. Well, I was really excited that you joined us. And, we spent the first 2 weeks just going over the basics, right? Choosing one ingredient food, increasing your electrolytes, and choosing good water, because tap water is not good water, right? And learning how your body works. I have a series of questionnaires that you filled out that are subjective. They're based on you as an individual, right? So we found out what your metabolic type is. And then we started changing your nutrition. You have a food log that you sent me. And the one glaring thing in the food log is there's 0 vegetables. And so for me, that's a big red flag. And, you might hear on Instagram, oh, paleo, just eat meat 24/7. Guys, you shouldn't just eat anything by itself alone the rest of your life. You've got to have that variety. We are meant to eat a little bit of everything, a little fat, a little protein, a little carbohydrate. It's meant to be a blend. Some are more protein dominant, some are more carbohydrate dominant for sure. But I'm sorry, I love meat. I think meat is healthy for you, grass-fed, organic, free-range meat. Don't get me wrong. I'm a protein person, not plant-based protein either. But you still need to have those antioxidants coming in from the vegetables. And I know that was a big one you kept saying, I can't believe I'm eating vegetables, right?
And that, aside from the running accomplishments, for me, even the biggest accomplishment was really the nutrition essentials, because again, I think you've got to know me. If I commit to something, I'm totally committed to it. So I was like, I've got, if I've committed to this program and I want to see results, I've got to do everything that Aaron tells me. And I remember that one of our first sessions, you told the group, this is about 80-20 and, finding the things that fit to you. And that's fine. And I agree, but that's not the approach I took. I took the approach of, I'm doing everything that Aaron says,
Okay.
because I wanted to see and feel real results. So I did it, and I remember going home and telling my wife, "Hey, I'm going to do this thing, and I need your help in helping me prepare the food, because my wife is super healthy. She's a great cook, and she's done some gut detoxes before, so I knew she had some. She knew a lot about the topic." And she said, okay. She said, I'll help you and support you any way I can. She said, so just tell me what you're going to eat. And when I told her, she said, you're going to eat vegetables? Really? I said, yeah, but Aaron says I have to eat vegetables with every meal. And so I never used to eat breakfast. And all of a sudden, you told us, hey, 3 meals a day. And, there's got to be protein and fat in each of those meals. So I took it to heart. My wife was great in doing that. I wish I would take credit for it. She would get upset. But she came up with some great, just meals for me. And I started what we would do is whatever I would have for dinner, I would have leftovers and I would bring it for lunch. So,
Perfect.
and in the morning I would have eggs, and we would put every vegetable that we can find, dice it up and put it in my scrambled eggs. Days that I was on the track, that we would go to the track early morning, I would do hard-boiled eggs in the morning, and then I would do a second breakfast after. So, I was having my protein and my vegetables, and I don't even remember when we started that program. I think that was in January.
Yeah, it was like February where we started with the food logs and everything. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay.
So it's like middle of
So,
February we started. Yeah.
so here we are in April, and the program has since concluded, and I have not gone back to eating a different way. I'm totally hooked to my new lifestyle. I don't even call it a diet. I call it a lifestyle. And I've got to tell you, it was funny because when, jumping forward, when I finished the race, we were talking, some of the other people that train with us, we were talking about, okay, what are we going to go eat? What's our reward meal going to be?
Reward food. Yeah.
And I really wanted a cheeseburger. I said, wow, I haven't had a cheeseburger in so long. I want a cheeseburger like with the bread and cheese. I hadn't had dairy or grain in such a long time. I was like, I really want a cheeseburger and fries, but like juicy. And I remember that on the way home, I stopped and actually I ordered Uber Eats or whatever. And when I got home, I had it. And was it good? Yes. I couldn't even finish it and I didn't feel it was that good. I was like, I didn't like the way I felt after, yeah, it tasted good, but I didn't like the way I felt after. So that night I was back to eating my flank steak and grilled I think it was mushrooms and spinach or something. And now I actually look, it's crazy, but I look for, a couple of nights ago we had some grilled barbecue flank steak. It was delicious and it was so good. But I told my wife, I said, but you want to know the crazy thing is that even better than the steak, the spinach was fantastic. So isn't that crazy?
Awesome.
So
Awesome.
crazy.
Okay, cool. So I do want to mention a few things that happened during the nutrition because I remember you were blown away from I want to do the water fast. That's one topic. But before we do the water fast, because that's not for everybody, guys. I don't force this water fast on you because it's a big deal and you have to be prepared. But how easy it is shocking, right? And the results you get from it is shocking. Okay. So I want to talk about the water fast. I want to talk the gut healing protocol, but I also want to talk about you telling me how you're not hungry and how much energy you have. Those were the two things that I'm remembering that you were just blown away with, that you were like, I can't believe that I have this much energy. Even during the water fast, you had that much energy. And I'm going to explain why that is. And then also that you weren't hungry. So talk about that a little bit.
All right, well, we'll start with the water fast because I was at the beginning.
Okay,
And I
let's do it.
remember I didn't know about the water fast when I signed up and agreed to the Nutrition Essentials because to your point, it's not you clearly don't make it a requirement. It's just a
No.
suggestion to some people who they want to do it, whatever. And I thought, again, going back to what I said before, I was all in. So I said, this is gonna kill me, but I'm gonna try this water fast. If Aaron says it's good, I'm gonna go for it. But I don't know how I'm gonna, I didn't think it was humanly possible to go 3 days without eating and not, and, oh, and then I remember asking you, Aaron, so then I'm taking those 3 days off of training, and you were like, no. I was like, how am I supposed to do my 2 days with, with no food? I said, Aaron's crazy. I said, but okay, I'll try it. And look, the first 24 hours are not easy. For me, those were the most challenging, the most challenging segment because I think we're just so used to eating out of habit, right? But the good news is that like the bone broth we had that day, those were all already things that I had already introduced into my diet. So I enjoyed my bone broth and I was really good with water. Oh, I've always been really good with water, so I was drinking a lot of water. Got through that. The second day, I remember going, it was a track day. And I was like, wow, I can't believe I just ran the track and I haven't eaten in over 24 hours and I feel good. And I think that's that day we had a call. And I think that's when I said, I've got a tremendous amount of energy, oddly enough. And yes, I want to eat, but it's not like I'm really not dying. And this is good. I think we can do it. The next day, I'll never forget, was a bridge day. So no, the first day we started Monday night. So Tuesday would have been track day. Then we had a Wednesday, and then my last day was Thursday. And Thursday morning we were doing bridge repeats.
Yes.
And I remember that when I got there, Dennis, one of the other full circle coaches, said, "Hey, how you feeling?" I said, "Well, it's the last day." He said, "Well, if you're dizzy or anything, take it easy." And I was like, I'm actually good." So I remember I ran the Key Biscayne Bridge. We did the repeats up and down, however many times, and I felt great. And it was really a surprising thing because I had so much energy. And I lost some. I remember when I weighed myself after I had lost some weight. I don't remember how much, but it was just I felt like so much younger, right? Because I just had so much natural energy. It was crazy, and I felt it was a great like restart. And that's really after that is when I really started following the program in terms of what I was eating, and really trying to make it super
Yeah.
clean, making sure that I was being very, very careful about even, you know, what kind of oils are we cooking with? What are we using? Making sure that everything was organic, that the meat was grass fed, and all that stuff. And the ironic part is obviously that's my business. I mean, I sell fruits and vegetables, and I wasn't consuming any of it, right? Um, and so it really was a great way to start. And actually, I know you're starting another food nutrition essentials program in May, and I want to join because I want to do the water fast again. So
Okay,
I
cool.
yeah, I really want to do the water fast again.
Yeah, so let me just explain a little bit that to people that are so fearful of the water fast, because you can go 30 days without eating. Our human body has that much stored fat in our bodies, up to from 40,000 to up to 80,000 calories of fat. Every single human being alive. Obviously, if you're really, really overweight, you have more fat than that. And in general, you have about 2,000 calories of sugar stored in your muscles. Okay. And then, of course, there is energy in your muscle as well that you could burn if you completely starved yourself. But we're not starving ourselves. When we do the water fast, we are hydrating ourselves. And what happens is your body does sense, okay, hey, no calories are coming in from the outside. So we need a clean house because we don't know how long this is going to go on for. So your body literally goes in search of fat, fat around your organs, fat, excess belly fat. Wherever you have excess fat, it's going to start to burn it as energy to help you get through the day. And guess what? For every gram of fat you burn, you get 9 calories of energy. So this is why you feel energized, as opposed to when you burn carbohydrates, you only get 4 calories of energy. So you just turn on your fat burning, services in your body. And the longer you go, there is 7-day and 30-day water fast. Like, I'm not into that stuff. And I think the 3-day or 100, between 70 and 100 hours is perfect. But I think it's between 65 hours and 100 hours. That's when your body literally can heal your gut. You can do a gut healing within the water fast. And then the other thing that it does is it kills cancer and zombie cells in your body. Any cells that are not functioning at a high level, you will eliminate those cells during the water fast, because your body is so perfect and it knows what to do to help you stay alive, right? That's its number one priority. So you reap the benefits of that after just 3 days. And a lot of people went to the 4th day, right? So we start Monday night. I like to start Monday night. That's just my routine. And then I usually eat Thursday night. But a lot of people went until Friday at 12, just because they felt so good. You know what I mean? So from there, the reason why I like to start this whole process, if you're willing to, is then you are a fat burning machine. So in the morning, when you wake up, instead of having a big donut, you have eggs that have protein, fat. That's what you need. So that's floating around in your bloodstream, and then your body starts to burn fat all day long. Okay. And then we also cover sleep. We cover hydration. We cover your thoughts, mental thoughts. If you believe something like this is possible, obviously it will be possible. And if you have a lot of negative thoughts going on about yourself all the time, you're not happy, you don't love your body, it's not going to do the things you want it to do, right? So got to have those positive mental attitude, and all of those mantras. I start with that mission statement at the beginning, right? To help keep you on track, right? There's so many parts of this program. It's not just about nutrition. But also toxins, your toxic load, reducing your toxic load. And you were kind of already on board with that. But yeah, so that's the explanation of why you have so much energy from doing the fast. And if you continue to eat by prioritizing fat and protein and vegetables, you will maintain. And so you ended you don't have that monthly GLP-1 anymore. You were really afraid. You were like, I'm scared, I'm going to gain weight. I'm scared I'm going to go back. And here you are, living proof that your body is an efficient, perfect thing. You just weren't kind of giving it what it needed. And sleep is also a big one, because you weren't really sleeping that well too. When you burn more fat at sleep than anything else. So even though you train hard, you work hard, you have very busy family life, you've now put things in priority to give yourself more energy so you can give more energy to other people, right?
Absolutely. And my kids say all the time that my energy level, my mood, and all that stuff is just like a different person. So when you hear that, why wouldn't you do, why wouldn't you do it?
Yeah, and it's a lifestyle. It's not a diet. You're not
Right.
restricting. I do want to talk about your cheeseburger and French fries. So if you go to Locale in Coconut Grove,
In the
they
Grove, uh-huh.
yeah, so they have grass-fed beef, and I am a big, huge cheeseburger fan post-race. So I will
Mhm.
go there and get the bacon cheeseburger with lettuce and their sweet potato fries, and you don't feel like crap after. So
Oh,
next time that's your
I'll take that for the next one because I really did not, I was not enjoying how I felt afterwards. I'm like, ugh, this was not a good idea.
So yeah, so that's the side effect of being healthy, that when you eat crap, your body will let you know. But when you eat crappy all the time, your body, the signals have been lost. Your body might have told you initially when you ate unhealthy that it didn't feel good, but you ignored it and you kept eating that way. So your body's like, hey, they're not listening. So I got to do maintenance in another way. I'm not going to send any more signals that I don't feel good, because you have to get on with your life, right? But when you
Right,
get clean and then you add that toxin back in, and that's that 20%, your body can take care of it. Your body can really, maintain it. But if you keep it up and that 20% becomes the opposite, 50% or 80%, that's when things get turned around. But now you have the formula, right? And the cool
right.
thing about the program is you can come back time and time again. Oh yeah, the gut healing protocol, because that one we weren't sure if we even needed it, right? Because you did the water fast and you were feeling good, but you went ahead and wanted to do the gut healing protocol, which is just a little bit more in depth with really healing the lining of our guts. And let's just talk about that real quick, because I believe 99% of Americans have a leaky gut, right? Just because we've been on antibiotics at some point in our life, we have had taken Advil, we have done things that cause our gut to be, not functioning properly. And it, you have bloating, you have gas, you have excess weight, you don't love how you look naked in the mirror. This is because your gut isn't working. You're sick all the time is also a big one, because your immune system lives in your gut, right? So what motivated you to finally do the gut healing protocol? Because it is kind of a little bit more in detail, right?
Yeah, the gut healing protocol, at first glance was intimidating because there's a lot of steps, right? There's a lot of supplements. I already take a lot of supplements, so and as part of the nutrition program, we had already gone through my supplement list, and you had already told me that I was on good supplements. So then to add all this other stuff, quite frankly, was a little intimidating. But again, I was I was gonna do anything that you said. So short of jumping off a bridge, I was gonna do it. So I committed to doing it. I started doing it, and for me, of the the nutrition essentials program, other than the fact that now it's really changed the way I eat, which is the biggest thing for me. The other big thing was the gut reset, because I didn't realize what an impact it would have. Um, and I think is important because hopefully it could help somebody. I had allergies my whole life from little kid, and I've been on taking some kind of allergy pill, whether it was Allegra or one of the other ones, Aleve, not Aleve, whatever, one of the allergy pills easily daily for the last 20 years. And I remember that afterwards you told me, you didn't even tell me that. And I probably just forgot because I don't even like, I never even considered that as an issue. I just knew that if I didn't take my allergy pill in the morning, a couple hours later, my eyes would be red, they would be watering, I wouldn't be able to breathe through my nose, I'd be sneezing nonstop. So it was just part of life and not anything that I even really thought about too much. Well, as part, in your program and everything, we talked about allergies, that was a topic. And I decided that since I was doing the gut protocol, I was going to try and not take an allergy pill. So it's been however long, 2 or 3 months at this point. And I think I told you last week, I have not taken an allergy pill in 2 or 3 months. We're in peak allergy season here in South Florida, and I'm breathing through my nose. I don't have any, stingy red eyes. They're not watery. I mean, it's incredible. So I think that, that's just a testament to everything that you're saying is so true and how important your gut health is. because yeah, there was other benefits for that. I used to eat no matter what, no matter how healthy it was, I would feel immediately bloated. Immediately, no matter what it was, even when I was eating healthy. And now all of a sudden, after doing the gut protocol, I don't feel bloated anymore, ever.
Yeah.
So those two things I can directly trace back to the gut healing protocol. And I would recommend it to everybody. I think that no matter how healthy you think you are, that gut health, that gut health is important, is an important piece.
Yeah. And believe it or not, it might seem overwhelming initially, but the benefits that you feel are so worth it. And guess what?
Oh,
You have the tool in your toolbox now. So say you're going to go off the rails, George. You're only
right,
human, right? So say Christmas comes and you go crazy. Guess what? You know what to do. Do 2 weeks of the gut healing protocol, get back on your normal your normal routine. You're going to be back. This is the
right.
beauty of learning what works for you individually, right? So I'm so proud of you. Thank you so much for taking the chance on me. And I really didn't understand the level of commitment that you were saying, because I feel like, wow, 100%. I even told him, I'm like, that's not realistic. But for George, it's realistic because you did it. And I just want to say I'm super duper proud of you. And thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for trusting me, because it is about communication. Again, it was not a straight road. You would always ask me questions and I give you feedback, right? This is how it works. It's not like one size fits all. One program does not work for every single person. We have to figure out what works for you as an individual. And it honestly changes at different times in your life, right? So as you get older, things might change. So you need to make adjustments as well. But the other thing I, of course, have to ask is what's next? Because wait, we have to go over your big win, because the dream happened. Let's talk about the 13.1.
Yeah, the dream happened this past weekend. I remember, some of those obstacles that came in, and stuff happens, right? I had, the foot issue with the tendonitis and stuff. So really the last 30 days leading up to the race, I wasn't putting in the mileage, the volume that I had been before. And and we had to go using the elliptical for a couple weeks, and even that was painful. So I was just very down, because the race was coming up, and I felt that I had trained so hard, and I had all kinds of self doubts. And I remember that when I finally was pain free enough that we could start running again, that you put a note, and I don't know if you remember this, you put a note in my Training Peaks, and it's, because it had the work, normally Training Peaks has the workouts, but here it wasn't a workout. What you had was run for 45 minutes, whatever it was, and you said, leave your watch at home. Don't look at anything, just enjoy the run. And listen to your body, or something like that. And you don't know the profound effect that that had, because I said to myself, she's exactly right. I have to mention that when I said that I hated running, which is why I started doing it in the pain. I love running now. I mean, it's crazy. I don't know when that happened, but at some point I love the runs. Our Saturday, long distance slow runs. Those are my favorite days of the week. I enjoy it so much. It's like a mental therapy. It's fantastic. And all of a sudden I had gone away from that. And then your message was like a wake-up call. Again, another wake-up call. And I remember that day I went and I ran, and I didn't look at my pace. I didn't look at my heart rate. I just ran and enjoyed it. And I remember thinking, wow, Aaron was right again. I had forgotten that I enjoy running, and I had gotten too caught up in all these things that, by the way, I was the only one who was putting those pressures on me. No one else was, it was just me about, I wanted this certain speed and this certain pace. And what that just made me remember is enjoy the ride, and enjoy what you're doing. And I really enjoyed it. And then that led me to Sunday. And I remember that my goal was to do it in under 3 hours. And I remember that I also told my wife, I said, if I really stretch it, I mean, how amazing would it be if I can finish this in 2 hours and 50 minutes? But I didn't even use that as a goal for anybody. I just mentioned that to my wife. I said, but it's not going to happen. And that day, when I got there, Nico, another amazing coach from Full Circle, was also going to race, for, just on his own. And when he found out that I was racing, he said, "Hey, you want, I can race with you, and we can just run together and I'll keep you in check." And that was like the nicest thing ever, because it was so nice to have somebody who was running there with me, who was supporting me the whole time. He was the one who kept telling me, "Hey, your pace is great, you're doing great." And it really made a huge difference. And that's part of this whole Full Circle tribe family mentality that is priceless, and something that I don't think Aaron talks about enough. But it's such a huge component of the program. And it was a great day. I mean, it was hot. Don't get me wrong. It was
It's
super
hard.
humid, super hot. But I started off and it was great. Obviously there's always bumps along the road, things, that I realized that I needed to, that I wanted to work on to improve. But when we were finished and Nico finally told me the time that I did, I couldn't believe it. It was just, one of the
Tell
happiest days.
everyone what it was. To what?
243.
Yes. You blew
243.
your unbelievable goal time out of the water. You said 250, not going to happen. 243, dude. And it was hot. If it had been like 10 degrees cooler, you probably could have gone another 5 to 10 minutes faster. That humidity makes it so, so, so much harder. And I just want to speak to the one thing that you mentioned, that the last month you kind of blew up and your self-doubt kind of came in, and you weren't hitting your runs, but you still had fitness in other areas, right? You were still doing your strength training. That's really, really important to remember, but you'd already put in the previous 4 months. So this is where so many athletes get it wrong, where they're like, "Oh, my race is 6 weeks from now, I better start training." No, you should have started training way a long time ago. This is where people get hurt and injured and then hate the sport, because they show up on race day and they honestly just don't even have the fitness for it, right? Don't get me wrong. I did read your post-race comments, and you're like, "The last 5 miles was hard." I'm like, it's supposed to be, right? This is what racing is, but this is the beauty of the finish line. You push yourself just because you set that goal to get across that line, and the feeling of accomplishment that you have about yourself and what's possible in your life it's invaluable. There's no other place like it, right? Would you say that's true?
I would absolutely say it too. There's no feeling like crossing that finish line and feeling that all that work and all that effort paid off. And not just that you can really accomplish anything that you set your mind to. And it was, here we are, today's Thursday, and I still feel like I'm on a high, like I'm on cloud nine still. I mean, it's just so grateful and so happy. It was really a phenomenal thing. And to run with Nico was the coolest ever, and I'm just super grateful.
Yeah, I love my coaches. Shout out to Coach Nico, Coach Dennis, and Coach Jack. You guys are rock stars. Couldn't have Full Circle coaching without you, and you guys all practice what you preach. Every single one of you is an amazing triathlete, and I wouldn't have coaches that are on anything less. But I do have to ask, what's next? What's your next big goal, George?
So it's funny because, yeah, I knew I wanted to do another triathlon, but I really got so into running during our time that I was like, well, maybe I'll just do, like marathons and races and stuff, because I was really enjoying it so much. But as I met more of the people that train with you, and I kept seeing and hearing about them, doing swimming, and they were biking, and I was like, oh, I think I really want to do this again. And so my next big goal is I want to do a triathlon in May. And we've got to talk about, what you think a good push for the goal time would be and everything. But I bought a new bike, which I never had a tri bike. I've never even had a road bike. I had a hybrid bike. So went and bought a new tri bike, which is like I bought it as my 50th birthday gift to myself. It'll be my birthday in a
It's
few
back
weeks.
daddy, you guys. It's beautiful. You got all the
Like,
bells and whistles, all the bells and whistles.
and that's thanks to Dennis, because I remember I don't know anything about it. And I said, Coach Dennis, you've got to help me, and you got to steer me in the right direction of what I need. And he did. So we've got a beautiful bike. Super
You've been
excited about that.
swimming. And you've been
And then we
swimming.
started swimming too. And a couple weeks ago, we did our first workout in the open water, which was I was very anxious about, and it turned out to be no big deal, and and I enjoyed it, so it was great. So I'm really looking forward to working on my skills to really get better at the swimming and the running, and I really think that I can have a good turnout at the next try in May, with some work on these other disciplines. So I'm really excited.
It's gonna be a completely different experience than your first one, I promise. You're gonna be like, oh, this is what it feels like to actually be prepared for a triathlon. You're gonna be blown away at the difference. So I'm super duper excited. I cannot wait. Well, anything else you'd like to share? Because I feel like this has just been such a great journey. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this today, number one, but also just for trusting me and all my coaches and Full Circle Coaching. But anything else you want to share?
Um, yeah, I think I have to start by saying thank you. To you, to the other coaches and to the Full Circle tribe, because like I was saying a few minutes ago, it really does make a difference. This isn't just a it isn't just a workout program. Um, my wife referred to you once as more of a life coach than anything else. Because, really it's just very complete, right? So I really have to thank all of you, because every one of you has made a huge impact on my life, not just, from a discipline, a sport discipline or a technique point of view, just, mentally and really inspiring me and the other athletes. And I'm trying to get used to calling myself an athlete, which, you told me I have to do. Um, my other co-athletes that work so hard and are, it's so great to have a community that, that's in the same boat, trying to accomplish a lot of the same things and facing the same challenges we all do in our lives, work and families and so forth. And it's just been such an amazing experience, and I'm so happy that I met you and that I started. And I'm just incredibly happy and grateful, and look forward to seeing what other great goals and things we can come up with and accomplish together. Because I have a feeling it's going to be a long road. So if I could do it, what I would tell anybody is, if I could do it, anybody could do it. And it's just about wanting to, trusting the process, and finding the right people. Though I think that that's a big key component, and I give you guys, you in Full Circle a lot of credit, obviously.
Thank you so much. Namaste. I see the light in you. Thank you for seeing the light in me. And I think we are complete. All right, George,
Yes.
have a wonderful day. I'll see you soon.
Thank you. Take
Bye,
care.
guys.
Bye.